I have a special treat for you today. Dan Markham from the popular YouTube show What's Inside and What's Inside Family has joined us here in the Sports Card Investor Studio inside CardsHQ. You may not know that Dan is a big collector. He loves sports cards, a very passionate collector, and he also is really interested in the sports card industry. And so he came into Atlanta because he wanted to check out our brand new CardsHQ store. There's going to be an episode on What's Inside Family soon about the store. But while Dan was here, I wanted to get an opportunity to sit down with him and chat with him about cards and collecting and everything going on YouTube. It's going to be a good conversation. Let's get started. Dan, welcome to CardsHQ. Welcome to the Sports Card Investor Studio.
If you're watching this and not listening to the podcast, it's hard for you to even know what I see beyond this camera.
Yeah.
This is the most amazing card shop ever. And I've seen some good card shops, and there's good ones out there, but this is incredible. Congrats.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Yeah, so you just, for the first time today, obviously, so we're filming this right before we're opening, right? And it's,
Yep.
and so you walk into the store and we're just putting the finishing touches on it for our grand opening, getting everything set up. You wanted to come early and capture it, capture a video of it before we opened. What was your first impression? Kind of what struck you walking in here?
I would think that you guys have probably seen the full tour video online. Well, all I had seen at this point before I came here physically today was like the rendering. And the rendering was cool. I'm like, these are great ideas. How much of it's going to stick as far as like the breaker rooms? Are you actually going to do those? Or is that like coming soon? No, it's all here. I think the thing that I was most impressed with is that poker table that you turned into like a card area for people to break on there. So we had a son, Harrison, open up a pack, and it's so cool. You've got all these camera angles. You've got the bleachers. There was one point when Harrison opened up this card that was numbered that we only had like 5 people in the audience watching, clapping. And I'm like, this is a vibe. This is the way it should be. And the other thing that I love is that we've had so many fathers and sons come to the door and want to come in and check this place out. They're like next door doing some fun arcade games or something, or they want to see the card shop. And there's just general interest in what I think I said in my video. It's like whether they buy something or not, the experience and the camaraderie about father and son or mother, son, mother, daughter, whatever it is, to come in here and just look at these cards and be like, oh, I really would love to have that someday. Even if you don't buy the expensive card, you get to see it in person on these cool displays. So anyway, that was a lot, but I do think that this place is going to turn some heads and change some things in the sports card shop, and people are going to create memories just by coming here.
Yeah, you hit on a couple of words that I love there. So one is family, and we've tried to orient the store around family, fathers, mothers, sons, daughters. If you look at our showcases, the vast majority of our cards are under a couple $100. A lot of them under $100. We've got tons of, value boxes of cards of $10 and $20. And a lot of the wax that we stock is inexpensive products as well, under $100, under $200, because we're not trying to be a bunch of $10,000 cards on display that are out of reach for the average collector and especially the average family. We want people to be able to come in and have that Saturday afternoon experience, that father to bring his son and have a Saturday afternoon experience and not feel like they broke the bank, by coming in and being able to do it. And so that's what we focused on. So family is important. And then you had said the breaker table and kind of that experience of getting to do that. That's really what we've leaned into, is that experience. This is not a shop that's just transactional. This is a shop that you can come in, and even if you don't buy anything, you can have an experience by watching people break at the breaker table, sitting in the customer lounge, meeting other collectors, maybe doing some trade deals with others who are in the shop. And we really want to build that community around the store.
That's great. One of the things that I love, and I think we talked a few years ago, I came out and we did a few videos. I think you do this, but I have a group of friends from high school, actually before high school, like elementary, high school. We see each other like once a year, and we usually pick like one place to go. And often, like every third year, it's usually Las Vegas. And we're not like big gamblers. Like I don't drink alcohol, we don't party, but we go there, we golf, but then we go during March Madness because we want to watch the games. And we'll go into these sports betting rooms. Usually it's the people that have to bet money. We don't even bet on the games, but we just go there to watch the game because everybody's cheering, it's loud, it's a vibe. It's hard to even find a seat in there. And that is another thing. I'm like pointing out everything in your place, but you've got this lounge area, and I kind of imagine, because I can't take my kids to the Aria Casino to the sports book and like sit and watch a couple of games on the big screen and listen to everybody cheer. But how cool would it be to have like a night? He's got tables or chairs and everything set up in here with monitors. If there's a big game on, you come here with as a family, you could buy some cards, you can hang out, and you're with a crowd of people that are watching this sporting event. That part I also really like. I know you could do that at your house and watch sports, but how cool to have a community around it. And it's like-minded people that love sports cards. They understand that side of things. That's another thing that I think is a little underrated that I think is going to become a big part of this. Like, you probably are going to have to like do a reservation only thing for certain game nights, like a playoff game, or, you know, the Falcons are in the playoffs and you're going to be like, hey, we're going to have a night here, but this area, take reservations because it's going to be so popular.
I might have trouble finding a seat on the couch myself. I might be watching from the back. So
I would love to, if I didn't live in Utah, I would love to come here for some sporting events just to hang out.
Well, thank you. We're super excited about it. Obviously, can't wait to get it open. So, what's going on with you? You've got obviously, you know, probably a lot of people have seen what's inside over the years, and you and your son Lincoln were doing that for many, many years. But he's grown now, right? He's going off to college or getting ready to do that, and you've been doing a lot of stuff on What's Inside Family. What's going on in your world?
Yeah, so that's a very common question in a lot of our, like, we have I think just over 7 million subscribers on our What's Inside main channel, and then we've got like 2.3 or something on our family channel. And for the last 2 years or so, we've just published on the family channel. And it's funny because I think we cut open a Jalen Reagor card for the main channel last time when we were here, which was kind of funny. But it wasn't like an intentional, we're going to stop posting on the main channel. It's just the family channel was doing really well. Lincoln was really getting into golf and he loved it. He's passionate about it. And I wanted to support that. And it wasn't that he was like, I don't want to be in videos, but I could see that his passion was toward golf side of things. And as a parent, I'm like, I love this, that he has a thing that he loves that is really hard and can help him learn a lot of life skills. So he worked on that. He got a lot better over the last 3 years. He just turned 18. He's going to be playing college golf, which is amazing, at Brigham Young University. First, he's going to go on a 2-year church mission. So he's taking a little bit of a gap, I guess, in between that. But I don't know if we're going to start posting on the main channel again at some point. Like, I would love to. I would love to, but I haven't. I've just been on the family channel. It's been a blast. So it's kind of funny how it's worked out. But
congratulations to your son. That's great. That's awesome. And I know you're obviously a big BYU fan and a BYU collector, right? And so I know you have a sports card collection of BYU folks. Who do you like to kind of go after?
Well, let me ask you, I'm going to quiz you here. Do you know of any NFL players that are BYU guys?
Well, Zach Wilson.
Zach Wilson, yes. I have some of his best cards.
He's the first one that comes to mind.
He may not be playing football ever again because the Jets for sure getting rid of him.
Yeah.
If somebody picks him up, that would be great. But he may be done.
I think he'll be around the league for a while. He may not get a starting job again, but I think I could see him being like a long-term NFL backup, and then, you know, maybe he pops into a starting role every once in a while, you know, if there's an injury or something like that.
I'd love to see what he could do when he has an offensive line. Like, the Jets have a lot of good things about them, but man, their offensive line, he had no time. Yeah. And so if he could get an opportunity like that, it'd be so good. So Zach Wilson's one. Any others you can think of?
You guys had a really good running. Well, wait, did Tyler Algier come for BYU?
Algier, yes.
Yeah, the Falcons.
He was a walk-on on our team,
yeah,
and he was a linebacker.
Yeah.
And then we had some injuries at running back, and he was a pretty quick guy. And they're like, hey, do you want to come on and be running back? And he tore it up. He was great. And so I love that was he a walk-on no, not a walk-on, but was he undrafted?
No, the Falcons drafted him.
They did draft him.
Yeah, they drafted him.
I don't understand. Why did they draft
another third round or something?
Why did they get a running back this last year?
Yeah, Bijan Robinson. Yeah, because Algier was great his rookie year. But you know what? They made I was a little surprised when they drafted a running back after how good Algier had been his rookie year.
Yeah.
But I will say the 1-2 punch of Bijan Robinson and Algier, they're different types of backs. Right. Bijan Robinson's much more of a speed back, more shifty, out in space. Algier runs people over. So they're different types of backs. So I actually like the 1-2 punch. That makes sense to me.
I mean, even the 49ers basically have 1-2, even though their one is really big. Yeah. But that is good to have.
So I think it's actually going to work out. It will keep a little wear and tear off of both of them. And with running backs, if you just have one and you run them too much, their careers break down pretty quickly.
So there's 2 teams that are still in the playoffs as of filming this. There's 4 teams left in the NFL playoffs. There are 49ers and the Ravens both have a BYU guy on their team that starts. It's a tricky one because it's not as flashy of a position.
Offense or defense on the 49ers? On the 49ers and the defense. Who would be? Bosa wasn't BYU.
Fred Warner.
Oh, Fred Warner was BYU.
Okay. Yeah. So he was So there was a coach, Bronco Mendenhall, that was at BYU for a while. He was in New Mexico. Brian Urlacher, he trained him as a linebacker. He was the coach down there. And then he came to BYU, and Fred Warner was good, but he's even better in the NFL, which is wild to see that transition. And then for the Ravens, Kyle Van Noy is...
Oh, okay.
He's a great guy. He
I
won some championships.
I have a Kyle Van Noy card. I pulled one of his cards. I didn't know he was
there
BYU.
We go. Yeah, so he was an incredible story for BYU, and Bronco Mendenhall was the coach that kind of had him come. BYU has these weird rules, like they have an honor code where you can't do certain things. You can't like drink alcohol. And Kyle Van Noy, like right before school started, he got a DUI, and before his freshman year, and Stanford, USC, all these schools were like, hey, just come down here. We don't care that you had that happen to you. And he's like, no, I'm going to stick it out. There's things that I need in my personal life that are more important than even like the football thing. So he waited an entire year before starting college and toughed it out, had an incredible time at BYU, like such a good player. And then has had he started the season not even on a team. And I was texting him like 4 games in. I'm like, what is happening here? Why are you not on a team? Which I probably shouldn't have asked, because I'm sure it's a sore subject, but I'm like, you're still good at football. I mean, you're still like not injured or anything. He's like, no, I don't understand what happened. And then I think it was the Pat McAfee show had him on because he started making YouTube videos on his own, just like analyzing the picks for the week, and he was really good at it. So Pat had him on the show. Within like 3 days, the Ravens reached out and said, hey, we'd love to have you on the team. So I think it was like 5 or 6 games into the season, the Ravens picked him up. Okay. And now he's starting, and their defense is legit. They already were, but they're even better now with him on the team. So fingers crossed. I hope that, I don't know, either one of those teams, just because they're BYU guys. So anyway, so I have cards of these BYU guys. Kyle Van Noy, Taysom Hill that's on the Saints. Jamal Williams was on the Lions. Now he's on the Saints, another BYU guy. So anyway, there's my nerdy side of things. You love the Gators. Yeah. I love BYU.
Yeah. And well, that's, one of the best parts of having a college team and then collecting the players from that college team is oftentimes they're inexpensive cards to acquire. That wouldn't have been the case with Zach Wilson, obviously, for a while, but it is the case with a guy like Van Noy. Like his cards aren't going to be very expensive, so you can pick up some rare, unique cards. So that's actually, I think that's a cool part of collecting. There's also the rise now in college cards, right? So like the Bowman U Chrome product that Topps has now put out now for a few years in a row, and there's a lot of traction being built around that. Have you ever ripped any of that, or do you buy any of the actual college cards?
I've never ripped the college. I think I've done a break or two online where it's been college cards, but I've been buying, like I have Zach Wilson's like 1/1 flawless rookie patch auto, it's a college card, but it's a 1/1. Yeah. And I've got a couple of his college ones that I think are beautiful cards, and they're probably never going to be worth a ton, but I do like some of the college cards because that's when like I was passionate about them. Jimmer Fredette played basketball at BYU. I've got some of his college cards and some of his pro cards. So it's like, I don't know. There's something sentimental there. It's great to make money off of cards. You want cards that are valuable. I would love to have some Kobe Bryant autograph, like super expensive cards. I do have some LeBron James like packs and different things that are valuable. But it's crazy the feeling and the attachment you have to a card that's somebody that you cheered and cried for in college, and you just have their little card and you're like, I remember this guy, and those moments meant a lot to me. So,
and that's why I collect Tim Tebow. I mean, that was it. Like I was, actually my first quarterback at Florida was Danny Werfel. Like he was actually the guy because he was at Florida. Like the first year Florida ever won the national championship was 1996. And that was my freshman year in college. And so my first year in college, Florida won their first football national championship ever.
Oh my!
Danny Werfel won the Heisman Trophy, won the national championship, and I went to the national championship game.
No
it was at the Sugar Bowl in New Orleans.
Oh my gosh.
Absolutely incredible experience being there my freshman year, the whole thing. So Danny Werfel was the guy, but I wasn't into cards at that moment. And then I lived in Gainesville post-graduation for many, many years. And so during the Tebow years, 2006 through 2010, I lived in Gainesville, and I owned businesses in Gainesville, one of which was a Ben & Jerry's ice cream store, which was right next to the stadium, like right in the mix on the heart of University Avenue. It was an iconic store in like every UF student knew about it, came to it. And that was all during the Tebow years. So I was very much like kind of interconnected with just the college community and everything like that when Florida was having that incredible success, 2 national championships, Heisman Trophy. And so those are like kind of my best, Florida memories really from both Werfel and from Tebow. But Tebow has a lot more interesting cards to collect. Werfel, because the era that he came through, there's not as many interesting cards of his that are out there. Whereas Tebow, there's some really cool Tebow cards out there. And so I've been picking some of those up.
Have you met Tim Tebow?
No, you know, I mean, I've been at events where he is and that kind of thing, and high-fived him, that kind of thing. But no, I've never really talked to him in a lot of detail.
Do you think he knows or acknowledged that you have all these cards and that you're probably the biggest Tim Tebow
I've
collector?
never tried tagging him or anything like that. I never have. No. I'm sure I'll get a chance to meet him someday. I mean, he does a lot of Gator alumni stuff and, that kind of thing. So I'm sure at some point I'll get a chance to maybe talk to him about it, but I've never done that.
Could we have like a Tim Tebow shrine area inside CardsHQ?
It would be fun.
And invite him to come one time and come check it out?
It would be really cool. I've thought about, so I'm actually, in the back of the store will be my personal office. And I'm right now planning out like what displays I'm going to put into my office. And so I'm sure there will be some significant Tim Tebow cards on display in my office. I got to figure that whole thing out.
That'd be great. Yeah. I've seen him in person one time, and I stole his Wi-Fi when I did kind of a weird thing. But I was on a flight from Phoenix to Salt Lake City, where I lived at the time, and it was a Delta flight. And at the time, if you were in first class, this was back when I was a pharmaceutical sales rep, and so I flew all the time. And if you were sitting in first class, you could get free Wi-Fi. You didn't have to pay the $8 or whatever. Well, I didn't have first class for this flight. But I'm sitting there in my chair and I look up as first class is boarding and I'm like, that looks like Tim Tebow. There's no way that's him. And he goes and gets on the plane. I'm like, that's got to be him. And nobody really noticed. He kind of kept his head down. We go walking on the plane, and I was born in the Philippines, and I lived there for a bunch of years. I speak Tagalog, and he was born in the Philippines. He was there for a church thing. Yeah. I was kind of there for a church thing, different churches, but still, like, we kind of have that connection in some way. But so I've always been like, oh, that's cool. My Filipino American sports friend or whatever. So I come walking on the plane, and right when I walk on, I look to the right, and he's sitting in seat 1A. And I look down, he kind of glances up at me like, oh no, the guy recognized me. And I'm like, that's totally Tim Tebow. That's him. And so I go back to like seat 20 or whatever. We take off, and I go to get on my phone, and I'm like, I don't want to pay for Wi-Fi. Dang it, it's not free. I'm like, wait a second. Let's see if that really is him. So you put in your name and your seat, and it'll connect to the plane and tell you. So I type in, what's your name? I'm like, Tim Tebow, seat 1A, and I go connect, and it's like, welcome,
confirmed.
Tim.
Wow.
And so for the whole flight, I had free Wi-Fi,
funny.
and I'm like, yes, I just stole the Wi-Fi off of Tim Tebow. Thank you.
That is really funny.
And so then afterward, we land, and I'm like, I got to talk to this guy. I'm going to go say something.
Well, especially since you now stole his Wi-Fi. You got to go say hi to him.
Yeah. So he goes to like not Shake Shack, but one of these like food places that has burgers and shakes, and he gets in line. I didn't need any food, but I got in line behind him, and I said something briefly. I'm like, hey, we were both born in the Philippines, and it was really awkward the way I said it, and he's just like, okay. And then I just like went away with my shake and left and went to my car. But that was the one time I met Tim Tebow. I stole his Wi-Fi, and I talked to him, and I was super awkward, and that was it. But I like him even more now because of that.
Maybe he's a What's Inside fan now. Who knows? Now next time you see him, he'll recognize you. That might be the case.
Stole his Wi-Fi.
That's fun. That's a lot of fun. So obviously you collect BYU stuff. You brought something really interesting to the studio today to share with me that you also collected. And we've talked about this in the past, but not on the show. I think it's kind of an interesting spin on collecting and maybe a sneaky investment. Talk to the audience about this.
So back like a few years ago when the hobby was like really, really just raging, something happened. And I think you interviewed the CEO of PSA like at the time, and you point blank like asked him like, why are there not as many PSA 10s anymore? And he basically, I think they kind of admitted, I don't fully remember, it was a few years ago, but I remember him saying like they wanted to crack down on how many PSA 10s there were so that it brings more value to a PSA 10. There was something around the lines there.
They say that the grading standards haven't changed, but that that people maybe there's better training and more thorough training today. So theoretically, like their official line is the standards have never changed. A 10 it's always been the same standard. However, there's a lot of people that very strongly believe, and I have seen it with my own eyes firsthand, that, if you submit a card today, especially an older card, and you look at what it takes to get a PSA 10 in an older card today versus many cards that are already in PSA 10s that were graded 10 years ago, that it seems to take a lot more to get a PSA 10 today. And 10 years ago, it didn't seem to take as much, because you can just look side by side at older slabs versus newer slabs. but they've never, they say they haven't changed the standards and that kind of thing, but there's certainly something to it.
Okay. Because a Beckett or a BGS 10 means so much more than a PSA 10 in a way. And it's almost like they want it. That's outsider's opinion, or like looking at it, I'm looking at it like there's some. So anyway, with the packs, they're not really graded the same way, if I understand it right. Like they ship them to a different place, a different company.
Yeah,
I
think it's actually Baseball Card Exchange, I believe, that actually does the pack rating. So they're the company that does the wrapping of boxes to certify that they're legitimate, which is correct most of the time, not 100% of the time. Obviously, the big Pokemon thing, with the Pokemon case a few years ago. Right. But for the most part, people trust Baseball Card Exchange. When it comes to sports card boxes, they have a good track record of authenticating. So they're also the group, I believe, that does the pack authentication and grading for PSA.
Yeah, and on my channel, like I've done a few shorts and a few videos where I love the 2003 Topps Chrome, the LeBron James 2003, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I always say it wrong, but yeah. So I have like an unopened hobby box of that, and I've also bought some graded packs for like $1,000, $1,200, and I've cracked them open to see what's in there, to see if there's a good LeBron James in one of the graded packs. But then I learned through the process that this is speculation, but I know I've seen a lot of people do this. It's anecdotal a little bit, but like a lot of times people will open up a box. And as soon as they get that hit, like say the LeBron James is in the 4th pack out of the 24 packs, they're going to take those other 20 packs, maybe sell those off. Mm-hmm. And those are usually the ones that are graded. And I think with Pokemon, it's the same thing where it's like they go weigh the packs, whichever one's not heavy. Let's send that one in to get graded
certain
as a
products.
pack. Yeah. So there's certain things that people do. And so I came up with the idea, what if I send in an entire box of 2003 Topps Chrome, but unopened? Mm-hmm. So that's not like I'm not gaming the system and sending in the lower value packs or whatever. So I did that. I sent in the entire box, and I specifically told the company that I gave to send it in, don't take off the plastic wrapping, only to be unwrapped by the people at that Baseball Card Exchange or whatever, PSA, as before they grade the packs. And so in my mind, I'm thinking if they are the ones that physically open it up, maybe they'll be a little nicer with the packs and be like, yeah, that's a 10. Why wouldn't it be a 10? It's just been sitting in this box for however many years. Mm-hmm. So I did that. I sent in the whole box, and I thought maybe I'd get a few more PSA 10s. Turns out, fast forward to getting it back, I was completely blown away. We got nothing below a PSA 9, and I think we have them over there. It's like, I think there were 17 PSA 10s. Yeah. Which is a lot. And the population is 35. 35 is the population. I basically have half of the entire population of the retail packs of 2003 Topps Chrome that are graded in PSA 10. But I also kind of like the whole collection together because I know there's potentially a LeBron James in there or a Carmelo Anthony. Like there's a good card potentially. These aren't just the garbage packs or whatever.
It represents the entire box. You've kept all of them from the entire box. Yeah, pack grading is not, you don't see, if you go to a card show, you don't see many dealers selling graded packs. The population count on a lot of packs are actually pretty low. And I think it's kind of a really interesting, a little bit of a sneaky investment, because I think there's a couple of reasons why somebody would want to buy a graded pack. One is because it's actually kind of a cool display piece. You can't display boxes very well over the years. Like a 2003, the actual box of 2003 Topps Chrome, you've got to worry about the seal on the box. You've got to worry about that, kind of disintegrating over time. The box itself isn't particularly like attractive to display. Now you can put it in like an acrylic box. Some people will store their old boxes in acrylic boxes, and then you can kind of display it a little bit better, but it's not the best display piece. But the individual pack slabbed by PSA actually, in my opinion, is a prettier display piece. The packs look nice. It looks really good in the PSA holder. And then of course that's easier to put on a stand, on a desktop, on a countertop, or, bookshelf, and display it. And it represents something really special. It represents the thrill of the chase. It represents what if. It represents, do you want to take the chance? What are the possibilities? It's almost like this item that inside it could be something really special and spectacular that the world, that would be many collectors would love. But by keeping it sealed, it's almost it's almost a representation of like possibility, right? So I think that piece of it's pretty neat, and therefore I think it makes a good talking piece at a party or a good, just amongst collectors. And then the other reason why I like the sealed pack thing is because if somebody is going to purchase an older pack that's a very expensive pack, you do, and they want the thrill of opening it. They're like, you know what? I'm going for it. I'm going to open up an old pack. You do have to worry about the pack. If you just buy a pack that's not graded, you do have to worry about, like, was it searched? Was it resealed? Was it manipulated in some way? And so by getting a graded pack, you have some level of assurance. No grader's perfect, but you have better assurance that pack was not tampered with, because they check that during the authentication process. And so you could always pop open the pack yourself, open it up, and know that you got a legit pack to be looking at. So
yeah, you nailed it. I mean, even with the box, like I have the 2003 Topps Chrome hobby box, and yeah, it doesn't display well, but also you worry it's just cardboard. If I drop it, it's going to bash in the whole corner of the box, and then maybe it gets into the cards, where you obviously don't want to drop a graded pack, but it's not going to be damaged. You wouldn't think as much. So no, I love it. I think the packs are cool. I think it was Pat Flynn on his Pokemon channel, when he first started his channel, he started buying he wanted to buy like a graded pack of all these different Pokemon cards. I'm like, graded packs, that's amazing. So I'm like, all right, laugh. So LeBron James, their team is not super great right now, but I feel like I don't know. Where is LeBron James? But where's his sports card market for LeBron?
Believe it or not, LeBron James sports card market's actually down a lot over the past 24 months. He was, when we had that huge COVID spike, in 2020 and 2021, the price spike, LeBron James cards were some of the ones that appreciated the most. And there were two reasons for that. One is he's just such a name that when you had all of these new people flooding into cards, and particularly basketball cards, because you actually had more new people coming into basketball cards than any other type of cards, everybody wanted a LeBron card. He's the obvious name to buy when you're coming into the market, right? So that caused his prices to surge even beyond other players that we were seeing at the time. Then the second thing is the Lakers won the championship in the bubble in 2020. So perfect timing. He also won a championship during the COVID price spike boom in sports cards. So it was the perfect storm. But because of that, his prices were the ones that maybe got the most out of control, the most oversized. So they've come down a lot they've come down more than most cards have over the course of the last couple of years. But I think it is generally a good buy time. I actually bought a really big LeBron card. I bought a $100,000 LeBron card just a couple of weeks ago.
Wow.
Because I like it. It was something really rare, something that you're unlikely to see again. I like where the market is now. Maybe it goes down further a little bit if the Lakers continue not to be super relevant. They're not great this season. Maybe he retires in a couple of years. I know he wants to play with his son, so that might bring a little more excitement back to his market next year. But, he's only got a few years left, and then he's going to retire. And then that could actually cause his cards to maybe even go down a little further for a while, because he's going to be out of the limelight for a bit. But if you're thinking 10 years out, 20 years out, 30 years out, 100% LeBron, 100%.
Yeah.
The two players you should own are Michael Jordan and LeBron James above everybody else. And there's plenty of other great players that are good to own as well. Bill Russell and Magic Johnson and lots of others. But above all else, Michael Jordan, LeBron James. And so I'd say take advantage of it when you can. And if you've got something cool like those graded packs, I mean, I would probably, tuck them away for some time. Personally, and revisit that when he makes the Hall of Fame, and which, are probably, 10 years out from him, getting inducted in the Hall of Fame or whatever. Like, then maybe at that point you say, maybe I'll sell a few packs off or something like that when he makes the Hall of Fame, or maybe you just hold on to it forever and just part of your collection.
Part of me is like, and I'm not the expert on this too, but like if he retired tomorrow, part of me thinks, man, it seems like his value could potentially go up after retirement instead of going down. But maybe it takes, like you said, it does take a lot of years. I mean, the things that when Kobe Bryant obviously passed away and his cards values went up and everything, but with Kobe, the things that he was doing off the court were so great, and the things that he was working on, that, man, it would have been so cool to see him fruition, the different movies and the shows and all of this. I mean, his daughter,
great business person,
man. But LeBron is very business savvy.
Yep.
He definitely has a truckload of money to be able to invest in things, and people want to be affiliated with him. I'm excited to see what he does post his career. As amazing as his career has been, I think he's going to do some pretty big things, and hopefully that does translate back to his legacy, and which goes back to the card value. And so, I mean, look at what Michael Jordan's done after, and with everything with Jordan brand that's there. So I'm excited to see what LeBron does afterward.
And I think, right now there's some people that just refuse to buy LeBron cards because of politics. People find him to be, even if it's not political, there are a lot of people that find him to be kind of polarizing, kind of, I don't know. Just
look, I was a Phoenix Suns fan and a Utah Jazz fan through college and through high school and all growing up. And so I did not like Kobe because he was so good and he always beat us. And he had that killer instinct and he just made the way he'd look at the crowd after he did something amazing. In his final game against the Jazz, he scored like 60 points. And I'm like, you're old. Why are you doing this to my team? And so I didn't like him as much. But then a few years afterward, I'm like, man, I respect Mamba mentality.
That's the thing. Like right now, there's a lot of people that don't like LeBron for X, Y, or Z reason. But back in the day, there were a lot of people that didn't like Michael Jordan. Mm-hmm. And I'm telling you that I think, 10, 20 years from now, all that stuff will be forgotten and people will look at LeBron as this like legendary figure. And the polarization will wash away when he's not on the court, beating teams each night or yelling at refs or whatever it is that people don't like about him.
Totally. So, I went to the in-season tournament championship game in Vegas. It's where I live close to Vegas. We just happened to go down, and so I was there. We sat in the nosebleeds, and then we came. It was amazing. It was so good.
Yeah.
And then we came down, and we were on the very front row, just watching. And LeBron gave like a speech. They probably didn't even show it on TV. And he was so eloquent and so good. And I was like, okay, I've never really been a huge LeBron fan. It's funny, I have his cards. But from the sports card aspect, I've respected that side of thing. And I've seen the data that he has. But listening to him speak in person and listen to him give credit to his teammates and all this stuff, I'm like, this guy is really dynamic. And off the court, once the politics of sports are away, man, it's going to be hard not to look back at all that he's done and be like, this guy's maybe the greatest of all time. Yep. One of the greatest for sure. But
I agree.
So I'm a big LeBron fan, of course. But from that side of it, sports card. Am I cheering for the Lakers? No. Maybe when Karl Malone went there for a couple of years, I'm like, I'm cheering for the Lakers. And then it felt kind of gross a little bit cheering for him. But
yeah, for sure. Awesome, Dan. Well, I know we got the Culture Collision show going on right around the corner. I know you want to get over there and see that. We got to get ready for folks to enter the store here in a couple of hours.
I've got my eye on a Taylor Swift graded card out there
we have some
that
Taylor
I'm
Swift
going to buy
cards
for my daughter.
Good.
If you guys aren't open yet, but I really want to buy that.
Well, you could be our first customer ever to buy a card at CardsHQ because we are literally right now in the process of setting up the point of sale system as we're recording this. And so once they get that plugged in and hooked up, they could actually check somebody out for the first time, and maybe that person will be you.
So how would you feel about the very first card ever to be transacted to be a Taylor Swift graded card?
I'd actually be totally cool with it. A lot of the audience is going to be completely freaked out by that. There's that. I bought a big Taylor Swift card myself recently, and it was I put a reel out about it on social, and the comments were very polarized. I mean, there were people that were just like, "This is the dumbest damn thing. What is wrong with Geoff? Who wants to buy a Taylor Swift card?" I mean, it's interesting, but I think it's a cool piece of history.
Yeah, my 13-year-old daughter, if I come home with that, she is going to be like, this is the greatest thing
I think
ever.
If you have daughters, then I've got a daughter too. And so I think maybe that, softened you up a little bit to the Swiftie world.
Yeah. Well, good luck with the store. This place is amazing. Thanks for having me out for a little while. I'm excited to see this in a year from now. I want to come back and see it again and see what things you have in the cases and buy and hear how the journey's going, because this is changing the game for the sports card world. Of course you're going to do that. You've already done big things with your app, so might as well have the physical retail store support the hobby even more and support people breaking their own packs and having a community around it. So it's amazing.
I appreciate you coming all the way from Utah to come check it out. It means a lot to have you here. And of course, everybody go watch What's Inside Family if you're not currently doing that, and you might see CardsHQ on there sometime soon. So that's a lot of fun as well.
That's right.
So appreciate you, Dan. Thanks for coming out, and thank you guys for watching. And just a reminder, the full-length Geoff Wilson Show episodes are available on YouTube, on the Geoff Wilson Show channel on YouTube, and also on Spotify and on Apple Podcasts. So make sure you're subscribed everywhere so you can catch all of these awesome discussions. Thanks for watching. We'll see you soon in the next one. Take care.